Medieval knight versus Japanese samurai, who will win? Good afternoon, Tanegashima. We're here today to answer the ultimate question. Who would win? Is it the 16th century samurai, on the cusp of a major weapon and armor revolution? Or is it the European medieval knight, who spent centuries refining this particular design? We're about to find out as they're entering the arena. And in today's match, we're starting 3 one-on-one battles. But I don't think there's a high chance it will stay that way for long. We've already given the samurai special dispensation to use their support staff after all. Luckily, there are no lions on the field today because these two sides are going to have their work cut out for them. Coming in hot, and by that we mean literally, because he must be boiling under all those layers, is our traditionalist samurai, who's already eyeing up our knight. But hang on, he's on horseback. Is that loud? I guess it is now. I'm not going to be the one to tell him. And it looks like his opponent had the same idea anyway. I suppose it's not surprising our samurai chose to face him on horseback. It's very typical of the high-ranking class he belongs to. Very few of them would be used to on-the-ground combat, and he's brought along his ashigaru for support. A man who hasn't embraced the turn-of-the-century fashion update. Samurai number 1 is kitted out in the duomaru. This light, lamellar armor has been fastened on the right side with a kusazuri skirt, split into 8 panels. That'll help his flexibility on top of his horse, but I wouldn't want to face the knight's weapon with those recycled metal plates for protection. It's hard to say who's at a disadvantage here. And indeed, our medieval knight is trying a charge with his lance. And yes, he's managed to dodge that first swing. I'm surprised he saw it coming, but then I suppose that while his Sunji Kabuto helmet may look big and heavy, it's not exactly blocking his vision. The same can be said for the knight, who appears to be favoring a Burgonet helmet, a relatively new design that leaves his face exposed but protects his head. Back to the fight, and it looks like this samurai's ashigaru is still relegated to the sidelines. If he was working with this guy's more modern-day teammate, he'd definitely be more involved. At least he's doing his job well in helping our mounted samurai unsheath his 3-meter-long yari, as they call their spears. It's hard to call, though. Our samurai might be more comfortable on horseback, but one hit from the knight's lance, and it'll all be over for him. I doubt his armor will protect him quite as well as his opponent's strong steel plating. Speaking of, the knight he's facing clearly enjoys the flashier look. It seems like he's chosen the German armor, as you can tell, because of the embossments on the chest plate of his cuirass. Usually, more of a choice for a parade than a fight. Does he think he's on a catwalk or a battlefield? Of course, all that armor they usually wear would be hard on his horse, so he's gone for the lighter design, chancing that he can dodge the samurai's blows. And it looks like they're ready for round 2. Both of them are lowering their weapons, ready to face off. It's not unlike a joust, really, in some ways, but it all depends if they can score a hit. As the two horses gallop towards each other, the knight skillfully plunges his lance into the samurai's chest, forcing him to fly off his horse backwards, crashing into the ground, defeated and dying. So it's all over now. And as our knight does a victory lap, let's look at what other battles are going on the field. Now we know how excited you all are for some potential gunplay, especially given how new it is. I'm sure you were dying to see those arquebus and matchlocks in action. But we've decided it's a close quarters match today. No firearms or bows allowed. The Europeans have had far more practice, so it hardly seems fair. But what's this? It seems like 2 of our opponents have decided to ignore the rules and bring their own firearms. Well, this won't last long. Though in the interest of sportsmanship, I hope the knight at least lets his opponent finish prepping his arquebus first. A simple design introduced to the Japanese by the Portuguese in 1542, we're only just now starting to understand how useful they can be. Of course, the Europeans have been using arquebus for years. In fact, it's almost vintage over there, as we can see from the knight's choice of the updated caliber arquebus, or musket as we like to call it. He could have chosen a wheel-lock musket instead, but as that's still in its early design stages, the caliber might have been the right call. It looks like they're getting ready to shoot. There are two bangs, and both men are engulfed in smoke. As the smoke clears, we can see the samurai still standing there, and the knight's lying on the ground, mortally wounded. He tries to get up but falls back down and dies. That's a shame. The problem with these new styles of weapons is it's all over too quickly. We'll leave our samurai to his victory lap and check in on our final pair. Finally, we have a real fight. Good old-fashioned hand-to-hand, or rather sword-to-sword combat on the ground. Unlike his teammate, our medieval knight has gone for the plainer Italian style of armor. A bit heavy, but good protection against the quick jabs of a samurai attack. It looks like he's chosen the full kit, the rounded breastplate of the Italian cuirass. Let's hope his opponent doesn't remember the right side weakness, and full leg, shoulder, and arm protection. Luckily, it's split into multiple plates, so it shouldn't hurt his flexibility too much. He'll be challenging our Tosai Gosoku-equipped samurai, based on the older Dumaru style his teammate was wearing. The Tosai Gosoku cuirass has 5 horizontal plates, connected by hinges and fastened at the back, secured with shoulder pieces, a sash, and obi to help distribute the weight. Because it's not joined together like the Dumaru, he should, like his opponent, be pretty flexible in this fight. He's also chosen sunye greaves and hydate thigh guards for full protection, although I'm not sure it'll be sufficient against that big broadsword. Maybe the knight has chosen this heavier sword for greater attack power against the samurai, because usually nowadays they tend to favor the rapier. With both using two-handed weapons, it's not going to be a fast battle. But the samurai might be able to give us a show as he circles the knight. His blade doesn't run the whole length of the weapon, instead attached to the end of the wooden arm, making it lighter and more dynamic to use in a fight. Then again, as we can see from his movements, the naginata is more of a slashing weapon, and he has to dodge those giant broadsword swipes. There's some fine footwork on display here. Look at how the knight moves, carefully adjusting his stance with each thrust of his weapon. Of course, if our samurai makes contact, it'll all be over, as their swords are made from sand iron ore and folded steel, making the cutting edge called the hasaki. Much sharper. If he's gone the extra step and had his blacksmith infuse a low-carbon steel core, it'll be even harder to survive a hit with the naginata. There's been a few clashes now, testing the waters as each strikes out, and the knight has the first hit. Successfully striking at one of the samurai's exposed hands, he's going to struggle to keep the grip up on his naginata now. He makes a few ineffectual jabs and slashes. It won't be long now. All you need is one small advantage to seal the fate of the match. Our samurai is looking concerned, and he should be. With a final lunge, our medieval knight stabs hard, slicing between the armor plates of the Tosai Gosoku. And it's all over. There's no getting back up from that hit. The samurai lays dying on the ground, and the knight stands next to him with his sword arm held up in victory. It looks like that's it from us today. It's been a wild ride, but ultimately it looks like our European squad will be taking home the trophy and their lives. This is a true story. I had my video on the guillotine totally age-restricted and demonetized. That's the problem with posting history content to YouTube, which is why we use Patreon to fund our videos and to post content that's too sensitive for YouTube. History is epic, so watch it uncensored on the Simple History Patreon with the link below.